This 10-year-old girl's name is Kyung-hee. Kyung-hee has been trained by the assassin organization since she was little. Today, Kyung-hee will participate in a gun assembly and shooting competition, and the loser will be punished with a fatal shot to the head. But she was moved and did not shoot her opponent. Seeing Kyung-hee's hesitation, the leader of the organization shot and killed her opponent. Kyung-hee felt that she was a kind and gentle person, but she wondered how she could avenge her father. Kyung-hee, who was originally a poor person, had a happy family. However, one day, a group of robbers suddenly broke into the house and killed Kyung-hee's father. In order to avoid being discovered by the enemy, Kyung-hee could only hide under the bed and watch her father die right before her eyes. Kyung-hee was in great pain, but in the end, the robbers still found Kyung-hee. However, they did not kill Kyung-hee. Instead, Kyung-hee was given to a high-ranking official to enjoy. The assassin Jong-sang appeared in time and saved Kyung-hee by chance. From then on, Kyung-hee joined the assassin organization. Kyung-hee trained hard and vowed to avenge her father. Others practiced holding their breath for 5 minutes, but Kyung-hee wanted to do more, until everyone was so scared that they pulled Kyung-hee out of the water. With this fierceness, Kyung-hee finally became the top assassin of the organization. 15 years passed, in the blink of an eye, and Kyung-hee now had a slim figure. Kyung-hee had feelings for Jong-sang, and the two of them soon entered the wedding hall. Jong-sang promised Kyung-hee that after marriage, he would give up this violent job. However, Kyung-hee did not know that misfortune was quietly coming to her. That day, while the two were eating at a restaurant, Jong-sang suddenly received a call informing him that one of his group members had been captured, so he had to rush to the rescue immediately. That night, Kyung-hee received the bad news that Jong-sang had been killed by OG. Jong-sang's death was so horrible that his body could not be identified. In fact, Jong-sang had found the enemy who killed Kyung-hee's father. Jong-sang wanted to secretly send someone to deal with them, hoping to surprise Kyung-hee, but unexpectedly, both Jong-sang and his men were ambushed and beaten to death. Kyung-hee was extremely saddened when she knew of this. In a fit of anger, Kyung-hee fell into a violent state. Kyung-hee thought she would only spend the rest of her life in prison. However, Kyung-hee's amazing fighting ability caught the attention of the National Security Agency. They decided to use Kyung-hee and train her to become a super spy. When Kyung-hee woke up, she found herself in the Secret Service base. But Kyung-hee didn't want to stay there and just wanted to escape. It wasn't until one shot, the person in charge of the base, took out Kyung-hee's medical report, that she gave up her struggle. It turned out that Kyung-hee was pregnant with a child. Kyung-hee could live a normal life on the condition that she promised to serve the National Security Agency for 15 years. After that, they would give Kyung-hee plastic surgery to get a new identity. From then on, Kyung-hee officially became an agent. The eldest sister in the base knew about Kyung-hee's strength and was very angry, so she came to challenge Kyung-hee. However, Kyung-hee just looked down on her and turned away. But Kyung-hee didn't know that the eldest sister wouldn't forgive her. The sneak attack from behind successfully angered Kyung-hee. Hyun-soo was behind the surveillance camera. He witnessed this scene with great satisfaction because he had a crush on Kyung-hee for a long time. Hyun-soo really hoped that one day he could be with her. Kyung-hee was the strongest agent, but just having skillful killing techniques was not enough. Under One-Shot's arrangement, Kyung-hee was also trained in cooking, makeup and stage acting. This way, when Kyung-hee carried out the mission, she could hide herself better. Kyung-hee also competed with other students in shooting. The skills she had trained since she was young helped Kyung-hee handle these situations easily. Finally, when it was time to graduate, the organization arranged for Kyung-hee to take the exam. As long as she completed the mission, Kyung-hee could take her daughter out and live a normal life. Because Kyung-hee was still a young girl, Kyung-hee needed to integrate into society. Kyung-hee had actually been waiting for this day for years. Thus, the exam mission was completed, and Kyung-hee could leave the training camp to be with her daughter, as she wished. Before leaving, Won-seok gave Kyung-hee a new identity. Won-seok also rented a house for Kyung-hee in the city. However, on the first day of moving, Kyung-hee met Hyun-soo. In fact, Hyun-soo was sent to follow Kyung-hee and lived next door to her. Hyun-soo had liked Kyung-hee for a long time, so when they met, Hyun-soo was more enthusiastic than expected. This inconvenience made Kyung-hee call Won-seok. Won-seok was asked by Kyung-hee to investigate Hyun-soo. But Hyun-soo was on a mission to monitor Kyung-hee, so Won-seok had to make up a story to solve Kyung-hee's problem. In the following days, Hyun-soo completely forgot about the surveillance. When Kyung-hee couldn't catch the bus because she had to carry her child, Hyun-soo immediately ran to chat with the driver to buy time for her. When Kyung-hee went to the supermarket, he volunteered to push the cart for her. When Kyung-hee went home without an umbrella, Hyun-soo waited at the train station with an umbrella. How could a normal woman endure such kindness? Soon after, the two officially confirmed their relationship. However, before Hyun-soo had time to enjoy his happiness, Kyung-hee received a new mission. The organization asked Kyung-hee to go with a female colleague to carry out the mission. Kyung-hee stole important information from the target at night. The two disguised themselves as bartenders to approach the target. At this time, after taking advantage of the man's hug, Kyung-hee secretly took his cell phone. Then Kyung-hee made an excuse to go to the bathroom and backed up all the files inside. However, at that time, the other party realized what was happening. As soon as Kyung-hee returned, the female colleague was controlled. They threatened Kyung-hee to hand over the information. Because Kyung-hee's female colleague died at the hands of the other party, Kyung-hee's mentality changed a lot. This was a job where Kyung-hee had to face death every day, and she didn't know when she would have to leave. However, Kyung-hee also had a daughter. If she died, her daughter would be very lonely. Therefore, Kyung-hee agreed with Hyun-soo's feelings. Then Kyung-hee called Won-seok to report the situation. Both of them were women, so Won-seok understood Kyung-hee's decision. However, Won-seok wanted Kyung-hee to also carry out a mission on the wedding day, and this time the target was a gang boss. On the wedding day, Won-suk arranged everything at the scene. Kyung-hee took out a disassembled sniper rifle from the toilet tank. After assembling it, Kyung-hee used the ventilation fan to aim at the target. When Kyung-hee saw the other person's appearance clearly, she was extremely shocked. That caused the bullet to miss the target because that person was Jong Sang, the husband she thought was dead. At this moment, she felt confused and dizzy. The entire wedding seemed to disappear. Kyung-hee was so immersed in the scene that she could not escape. That night, Jong Sang tracked the trajectory of the sniper bullet and found Kyung-hee's shooting location. Jong Sang had tracked Kyung-hee's image from the hotel's surveillance camera. Even though Kyung-hee had plastic surgery, Jong Sang still recognized her with just a glance. Not long after, the two met at a restaurant. Kyung-hee pretended not to know Jong Sang and said that she was married. The two exchanged normal greetings. Jong Sang turned and left. The next day, Kyung-hee received a memory card from Jong Sang. Inside was a recording of a call between Hyun-soo and Won-suk. That was when Jong Sang and Kyung-hee met at the restaurant. Jong Sang sent his men to follow Hyun-soo and secretly recorded the conversation. After listening to the recording, Kyung-hee knew that Hyun-soo was an undercover agent sent by the organization. Kyung-hee thought that Hyun-soo was just taking advantage of her feelings and felt very sad. Kyung-hee is now extremely disappointed with this man. In revenge, Kyung-hee revealed to Jong Sang that a woman wanted to kill him. As a result, the female colleague on duty had not yet stepped out of the elevator when she was captured by Jong Sang's men. At this time, Won-suk saw Kyung-hee's unusual behavior. Won-suk called Kyung-hee to investigate, but on the contrary, Kyung-hee exposed Won-suk's lie on the spot. As a result, the two had an argument, forcing Won-suk to take Kyung-hee back to the organization. However, on their way back, the stranger was none other than Jong Sang. Jong Sang asked Kyung-hee to leave with him immediately. However, Kyung-hee wanted to take her daughter with her. As soon as she ran downstairs, a huge explosion occurred from the room. Kyung-hee only saw Hyun-soo holding her daughter falling from upstairs. The two collapsed right in front of Kyung-hee, and they died instantly. In desperation, Kyung-hee went to Won-suk first, but instead of explaining much, Kyung-hee watched a surveillance video in which Hyun-soo was carrying his daughter home and was captured by Jong Sang's men. To protect the child, Hyun-soo had no choice but to confess to them that the child was Jong Sang's daughter. When Jong Sang's subordinates called to confirm the information, Hyun-soo could not have imagined that Jong Sang was more cruel than a wild animal, because it turned out that what Jong Sang wanted to destroy was this child. Jong Sang also threatened Hyun-soo and asked him to kill the girl himself. Hyun-soo could only survive if he did that. But how could Hyun-soo agree? So Jong Sang ordered his men to wait until Kyung-hee appeared, then detonated the bomb right in front of her. Jong Sang's purpose was to make Kyung-hee completely break away from the organization. Kyung-hee had to decide to return to him to become a killing machine. After knowing this, Kyung-hee almost went crazy. Kyung-hee did not understand why the man she loved the most could hurt her so cruelly. Before leaving, Won-suk gave Kyung-hee the recording of the conversation with Hyun-soo. Only then did Kyung-hee realize that Hyun-soo truly loved her. Hyun-soo hoped that their marriage was real and was willing to take care of her and her daughter. Ultimately, he hoped to take them away from the killing to live a normal life. After hearing this, Kyung-hee was silent for a long time. Kyung-hee then went to Jong Sang's office. When the two faced each other, Kyung-hee asked Jong Sang if he really loved her. But unexpectedly, at this moment, Jong Sang confessed that he was the one who killed Kyung-hee's father. Jong Sang knew very well how determined Kyung-hee was to avenge her father. Therefore, the two could not get involved in a love affair. Jong Sang's original goal was not to kill Kyung-hee, but only to train her to become a killing machine. When everything was exposed, the two immediately rushed into a fight, because to solve everything, one of them would have to die. The police quickly arrived at the scene, but in this situation, Kyung-hee only had a scary smile. Life had made Kyung-hee experience truly great suffering when she lived only for her enemy for almost her entire life. Moreover, Kyung-hee also had a lot of difficulty in finding true love for herself. Even her beloved daughter is no more. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you again.